Hello and welcome to this edition of Finance and Technology Insights. I'm Brian Williams.
And I'm Eric Bjorndorf. How's it going?
Going pretty well. How about you?
Doing pretty good. What's going on in the world of AI today, or baseball? What are we talking about?
Well, both could potentially converge if we end up dropping umpires and going to robot umps, which is on the table. So laser monitored strike zones, we could go that route.
I've been using Instagram lately, and because we were using it for marketing and things. I never really was a good Instagram user, but I am using it more, and somehow I'm on this feed of baseball clips or something. The algorithm just got me psyched because I think I sent you a couple that
you did, yeah.
When new rules are coming out. So now I'm trying not to send you all of these things that are hilarious that I think you would probably appreciate, but
Right.
all sorts of reels from batters rushing the mound and trick plays, and this one guy caught a home run over the fence, I think, and then acted like he didn't catch it.
Yes.
And did you ever see that?
I have seen that. Yep.
And the runner celebrates and the team celebrates, and then he just and then he infields the ball or whatever, and then everybody's like, what? And then the caption was like, this goes down in history as like the biggest troll ever.
Yep. The ultimate deke move. Yeah. I mean, that's the fun stuff about watching games live is there's a lot, not to that extreme, but there's a lot of deke moves, and, you'll see players act like they missed the ball to try to get the runner to go, and all that sort of happens. And sometimes you don't see it on TV, but, and you would think that at the professional level, they wouldn't do that, but they love their celebrations and they love to get caught up in stuff. So you got to be careful about when you celebrate and make sure it's absolutely 100%.
Yeah, right. That's pretty funny. And there's no unsportsmanlike call or anything like that.
No, not really. I mean, they've always kind of self-policed it, as we call it. So, if a guy was pimping his home run and it took him too long to run around the bases, his next guy got one in the ear. So
there's even a video of like it must be a T-baller. He must be 4 years old. He's very little, and the video starts with him like he's running to home plate in slow-mo. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes, I have seen that. I know.
And then the coach comes over and tries to like usher him along, and he's like this.
Gotta love every minute of it. Yeah. So we had our first T-ball game. Well, not T-ball, but we had our first Little League game on Saturday. So we were all up in that. That was a lot of fun. My son's into it. He played. The biggest fear was, so he didn't play T-ball. A lot of people on his team did. So he's a little bit behind them, other than just kind of the yard stuff. And it's parent pitch. So you've got a parent lobbing him in there, and I'm like, oh, don't let him be the kid who like can't hit it to the point where they bring out the tee or make him like hit it. But he was like, no, he did all right.
You got a piece of it?
A couple times, yeah.
Oh, that's
so that was fun.
That's a proud parenting moment for you. I know.
Yeah, it's one of those check the box things that you put on the list, make the video, take the pictures, all that stuff.
That's cool. We're starting soccer. Our older daughter started soccer again. It was kind of, it's hilarious how you have to navigate. The children look at the parents to see what the parents want, and then see what the parents are in conflict of each other. Like, because me and my wife are like, we're aligned on some things and some things we're not. And so like the kids are just constantly reading this energy in the room, and then add to all that, not wanting to do things that we really want them to do, So the last year has been this dynamic of, will Camilla do soccer or not? And she finally did do it. I mean, me and my wife love going out to the field and, the whole thing, and we just love soccer. And my daughter loves it too, but it's just that dynamic of like, do I want to do what mom and dad want me to do? That dynamic. And then it's, right. So I kind of took a step back and then let the ladies decide what they were going to do for themselves. And I'm happy to see my daughter started soccer again. So I think she has her first game this weekend, or she had her first game this past weekend, but it got rained out. That's okay. That's what happened. So the weekend got rained out for us.
Yeah, we get a little bit of that with Luke. We always have to check in because like if we really like something, he's gonna like it too, you know. So it's like, are you sure you really like this? You know,
I
kind of
mean, they're engineered to
to
do what we
please.
do. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how biology works. But there's this weird thing, like, I don't know, like if you're living in, utopia with you and your wife, and you guys are perfectly simpatico on every single decision, but me and my wife, we're like, we both have our own interests and
Hmm.
preferences and things. And once the kids kind of pick up on that, then it's like, who do I want to ally with on this
Mm.
one, and I try to I just try to tell the kids, like, do what you guys want to do.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's fun to see which path they choose. My son's pretty good about like he's into like a little bit that each of my wife and I are into. My wife's pretty athletic, so like if we're going outside and throwing the ball around, it's all three of us. It's not necessarily a father-son thing, which I'm totally good with.
Yeah.
And we all go to the grocery store together usually. Um, and when we get in these patterns, we sometimes like to just like mix it up and just because we don't want them to get them too like routine, because my wife usually drops him off because it's on the way to school. But every once in a while, I'm like, nope, I'm taking you, or if he expects my wife to pick him up in her car, then I'll come in her car or she'll come in my, like we have to mess with him a little bit
Mix
like
it up.
that
Yeah,
just to
yeah, yeah.
keep him kind of off
So what about
kilter.
when you guys go to Bed Bath and Beyond? Who do you all three go there?
We have not been. Our store in Southington is one that's on the list of closures. So we haven't been there.
That's
Yeah,
my
I think we
transition
kind
to
of got
market
everything
news.
we need there. My wife's not a big like that's kind of not where we are right now. So
Come on, that's
um
my transition to market news. Did you catch the news yesterday?
no, what's new on Bed
Oh,
Bath and Beyond?
they announced that they're going bankrupt.
Oh yeah, I did say I thought they were already bankrupt, but
I think that came in
yeah.
yesterday.
Okay. All right, so that's
And
official.
Jimmy Kimmel last night during his monologue, he said, only if they had 20% more in revenues would maybe they would have not gone bankrupt.
I know.
Did you
Yeah,
get
it
the
became
joke?
a joke, those the coupons and
The
stuff like
coupons,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that have
I thought that was funny.
yeah, I know that's I don't know. There's certain stores sometimes you're like, how did they fail? How did they not? But there's obviously a lot more. I think about that with Toys R Us all the time. I'm like, how did you blow that? You know, you were kind of the only game in town. I mean, you had like standalone Toys R Us and you had, KB toy stores and I know Walmart
KB, I
came in
remember
and
KB
yeah,
Toys, yeah. Was that a
yeah,
national brand, KB?
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure they
Yeah.
were at least Northeast. Every mall had a KB.
KB was cool because it was a lean store. It was small, right?
Yeah.
It was like a strip mall store kind of where, or we
Mhm.
had one in our local mall.
Yep.
And I just remember it was not a box store like Toys R Us.
Yeah, good, and I'm picturing, like, 4, like, long aisles, that's kinda
Yeah.
what the store was, right? And
Yeah.
it was like or maybe it was 3 or 5 because it was, like, girls, boys, and then, like, down the middle was kinda, like, mixed, or it was, like, sporting or something like that.
Yeah.
That's how I'm picturing it.
So how does a company like that go bust when the same products that are in the store are still for sale? They're still being sold. Action figures, Barbies,
Mhm.
Lego, toy, all these things are still for sale. I mean, yes, we could say that it's like the box, maybe like the Targets out there, the Targets and Walmarts, like they're selling a lot of that. So while you're grocery shopping or clothes shopping, now you can do some toy shopping. Is that kind of how that
Yeah,
goes?
I mean, I guess that was the excuse that they used, but I guess they had, like, real estate issues and, like, taking on too much debt to grow too quickly or something,
Right.
like even
Right.
the best business model can fail under
Right.
those kind of crippling circumstances. But
Yeah, I mean the rents in most of those most I don't want to say premium because they don't always seem premium, but those premier uh, strip malls, the rents have got to be exorbitant. I think I even heard anecdotally that the rent is a factor of revenue. Have you ever heard anything like that?
rent is a boy. I guess it can be. I don't know if it's like officially in the contracts or something, but you could certainly see where if a company was doing real well, the landlord would be like, "Oh, well, we want a piece of the action," you know?
Yeah, I mean, many years ago, I was looking for a office, and I wanted to do. This was back when PC repairs were still viable, and showing my age. But when I was looking for rents, I think this is where I picked this up, that like the landlord, part of the relationship with the landlord was that you had to submit financial statements annually, and they would review your revenue.
Wow.
And I'm like, who would agree to that?
Yeah.
Who would ever agree to that? You've never heard anything like that?
No, I haven't heard that,
But I mean, you can imagine that like these big stores like KB Toys, and that have like a store in a store in every strip mall in every major city or urban area. You're like, well, of course you're going under, because the landlords that you mentioned the real estate deals. I mean, yeah, they buy some of their spaces, I think, are bought. I don't know how many are leased. I don't know what the division of that is, but yeah, I mean, if you have a landlord that's linking your rent to your revenue, I mean, that's like a leech. That's just a
right.
parasite that's gonna pull you down. So it's not really surprising that that's what would happen.
No. And I guess if it worked the other way and it helped you out in a downturn, right? That you're if you're going through an economic downturn
Yeah,
and
but
suddenly you're, but
it
I
never
doubt it
works
works
that
that
way.
way,
There's
right?
in my industry, we have software vendors that we're buying and selling their services. They always
Yeah.
have a floor in which you can't go below. It's called the minimum buy. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, it's so crazy. So I mean, you got expenses. I mean, definitely, if you have a real estate footprint, that you got to leverage that as a competitive advantage. You got to negotiate sweet deals. You got to, that could just totally kill your margin.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Although McDonald's, on the other hand, their business model was in real estate, but it's because McDonald's would own the property that their franchisee would rent back from them.
Right. Yeah, they're a real estate company, not a burger company.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised stores you see stores like that fail, but you see that of all sizes. Like sometimes you'll see a restaurant, you're like, man, that place is always packed, and then you find out they're going out of business. So there's a lot more at play than who's coming in to buy stuff. How full the parking lot is, right?
Now the market's not open yet, right? They open at 10.
9:30. Yeah, a couple minutes.
Do you see any pre-market activity in the I don't know where, but keep wanting to say Best Buy and Beyond. It's
I know.
Better Buy and Beyond, Bed Bath and Beyond.
Bath and Beyond. Yeah, they were.
Do you see any volatility in aftermarket?
Bed Bath and Beyond. I mean, that's a 19-cent stock, so I don't think
Well,
there's too much
now
activity.
19 cents, but it was $30, I think, last week.
Really that high, huh?
Yeah.
I have to look at that. Are you and your wife big Bed Bath and Beyond folks or not?
It's funny. I actually like the store.
Yeah.
Because like you can get your sheets, you can get a garbage can, and you can find some as seen on TV widget that might entertain you for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I do like the store. So to your earlier point, I'm surprised that that's one of those stores that would go under. I mean, how's Target going to consume or absorb that entire? I mean, I guess you can get your sheets you can get everything that's at that store at Target, I suppose, but they did seem to have a deep bench of products in, sheets, linens, blankets, pillows, that sort of thing. So it'll be just a little disappointing.
Yeah, their high over the last year was they were at $13 in August. Now they're trading at 18 cents.
What was before? Even that's what looked pre-August. What was just before that quarter?
Their 5-year peak is $33.
Yeah, so it was just before August. I think August it was the first. I think early last year it was 30, because I read an article in I think Forbes or Fortune that a 20-year-old made 120 million on the stock by I think they were calling it a meme stock.
Yeah, definitely during 2020. I mean, you've got a low right here of early pandemic, right? March 1st, and then it did climb up here. That was kind of a day trader special type of thing, and then it's obviously gone right back down for there.
Right.
But there's a
Right.
funny headline in here where I don't think anyone's even going to notice it's gone. It says former Toys R Us CEO.
From the former Toys R Us CEO.
Yeah, I
That's
know. I
funny.
mean, I guess that was like my reaction too. I thought they already were bankrupt. They had closed so many stores. I
Yeah.
didn't even think that they were going to be on a path to remain open.
I don't know. I'll miss it. I suppose. I kind of liked it. I was I took it. I definitely took it for granted, though. I think everything probably in recent memory that I could have purchased from Bed Bath and Beyond I did purchase from Amazon.
Okay.
So I suppose that's probably the contributing factor. The
Yeah.
online sales. I mean, you don't need sheets now, right? So
Right.
you don't need to run out to retail to get sheets. You can just order online.
But isn't that something you wanna touch and feel? I mean, pillows, blankets, sheets, towels. Don't you wanna feel that stuff or no?
I used to think that, right? But you just go to Whole Foods or any of their countless Kohl's even does their returns,
Mhm.
and it's like no questions asked. You just put it in a bag and you just say take it back.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
my wife's returning something right now. She went to UPS store because that's on our way to stuff, so she just walks in there and drops it off.
Yeah. I mean, I think the real lesson, and maybe this is 5 years repeated, 5 years late repeated, but the lesson is Walmart, Target, Bed Bath and Beyond. Like they obviously missed the retail, the e-tail opportunity or boat, however you want to view that. And then
Yeah.
Amazon became this juggernaut that just hoovered up and occupied so much so much of the kind of mind space for online retailing. And I remember I was late to my sister was posting on Facebook in 2012 14 or whatever that she had an unhealthy relationship with Amazon. And I was like, what is this Amazon thing? And I was still buying online, but from individual retailers.
Mhm.
And the challenge with that is you didn't really know you didn't have a kind of a uniform expectation of what the buying experience was going to be across product lines. So if you're buying linens today and you were to do that from Bed Bath and Beyond, or if you were buying electronics tomorrow from Best Buy or, whatever, there was no uniform experience. What Amazon did was just that. It just kind of it created the online mall, really what it did. Uh,
Right.
but acted as the single transactor, so you kind of, once you knew what your experience with Amazon was going to be, you can now buy all across all of these product lines, you know?
Yeah, and I think for me, getting on Amazon was, so when I worked had an office job, I used to like to have stuff sent to the office rather than at home, especially if it's, I mean, something you don't want sitting outside. There isn't many things I guess you'd want sitting outside, but so that I used to like because the tracking was good, um, and it's amazing how they've gotten us accustomed to like same day, next day, or in 2 days. Like you order something now, and if it comes in a week, you're like, oh man, it's like somebody stole your dog or something. It's crazy how they've locked us in. But I'm guilty of that. It's like, when you go on Amazon or something and it's like, be there in, within 5 hours or be there in same day or next day. And you're like, oh, next day. Like that's the worst, but
Yeah. I mean, Best Buy, all of these retailers and even small retailers, like they could have partnered with the likes of Uber and DoorDash, and maybe they have by now. I don't know. I just don't shop there anymore. But you could have gotten like extreme for same day,
mhm,
where the business model could be the retailer telling their personnel that you're going to, part of your employment is you need to be able to drive and whatever. So when an order comes in, you could take it right from the inventory of the retail and run it across town. I mean, Amazon basically, as you were saying, did that with the next day.
mhm.
So I guess I don't, the healthy thing, the good thing about the death is that it's renewing. It's like Bed Bath and Beyond, Toys R Us, they didn't survive in their present form because they were suboptimal. They did not innovate and innovate enough to continue. So,
Right.
but fortunately, I think what will happen is there's probably value in the name, just like Toys R Us, just like Twinkie.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there? I mean, Toys R Us is got a decent online presence, I guess, and I know they did some pop-up stores, and they were doing that around the holidays. So there's some branding there. I don't know if Bed Bath and Beyond has any sort of branding or whatever. Maybe a little nostalgia, like people sell the Bradley's T-shirts and Caldor's T-shirts that you
Well,
can buy.
you could agree that in some form there's value in the 30 or 40 years of the brand,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah, I
can
mean,
imagine,
if you're Walmart or something, I'd make an offer on that domain or something, just even if it just redirects or even if it just goes to your,
or if you
home goods section.
exactly, like if you rebrand Walmart's home goods section as Bed Bath and Beyond, even
Mhm.
though it's like it's you're at walmart.com
Right.
and you click on Sheets and then you have a sub, marketing brand that is now you're in Bed Bath and Beyond. I mean, in
Mhm.
some form, so
Yeah.
I think Bed Bath and Beyond will live on in name somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, even if it's a Shopify storefront, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody
Let's
will
make an
want
offer on the domain. Let's see what we can get it for.
to right.
Find out if it's for sale.
Right, right. Toys R Us, Twinkie lives on. We Americans were not going to let their Twinkies go. I actually
No.
saw a Twinkie wrapper. Don't tell my wife. Fortunately she doesn't watch these anymore. But I saw a Twinkie wrapper in her office garbage can. I was like,
Hmm.
what? Who actually buys Twinkies anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big Twinkie guy. I would do like my horribleness along those lines would be like the fruit pies, like the little Hostess fruit
I
pies.
was just going to say my
Like the
my go-to,
glazed, like, oh,
the
so
Hostess
good.
apple pie.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that was my
Yeah,
jam
or
for sure.
the lemon or the cherry. They
Yeah,
don't.
I tried them all, but the apple pie
Yeah,
was my
apple
go-to.
apple takes the cake. The other one would be like the Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls.
Yeah, those were too dense for my preference. I liked I think did Little Debbie have the oatmeal? It's real thin, like oatmeal
Mm.
sandwich cookie
Yeah, I think
sandwich.
that's her. Yeah.
Those I could eat. I could eat way too many of those.
Yeah. That almost sounds too healthy though. It's like if you're gonna go Little Debbie, like oatmeal almost sort of makes it sound like a health food. So
Right, right.
I
That's
don't want
so
to go that
funny.
route.
So what's going on? What else is going on in the market? Anything interesting that we can educate or entertain?
Well, we had so still some banking issues. I mean, that's the stuff that doesn't want to go away. So we had bank this morning down 20%. The First Republic, they lost about 40% of their deposits, which is more than people were thinking. They say they've stabilized now, but it's just the idea of the ability of people to move money around so quickly that we've talked about before. So if there's a bank that's even has some sort of question or any sort of issue, it's like, why would you hang around? People don't have any allegiance to like their online bank or whatever. Like what, there's no advantage to staying. There's nothing, it'd be different if it was a huge process to close your account or you had to, drive somewhere or whatever. But if you're a bank and if you're a business or you're an individual and you've got a significant balance at a bank and they're maybe potentially could have some issues, what's the point of hanging around? So the fact that it can be moved in a couple clicks or even, through a phone system or whatever, I mean, it just makes it too easy for banks to lose money.
So, well, is the banking industry on a knife's edge then? Because the lemmings could move quickly to upset the fulcrum of balance sheets, I guess, for lack of better.
Well, I mean, the one that was the big one before this was Silicon Valley Bank, and they were very top heavy, so they had a lot of big balances with very few people. So that makes it really susceptible to a run. So if you've got, let's say, 10% of your accounts hold 90% of your balance, that makes you, that money could leave quickly. Most other banks are more well diversified than that from a from a customer standpoint, but Yeah, I would be nervous if I was running a bank. I mean, even if there's like a fake, think about the idea of like a tweet that goes out by somebody reputable, and they target the wrong bank, or they tag the wrong bank or something. I mean, you could get a huge run on a bank just because somebody, did at, Northwest Regional Bank instead of Northeast Regional Bank or
Or
something
what
like that.
or what
Um,
about, there's always somebody out there on the internet willing to sow chaos and discord. How
sure.
about a deep fake of a bank CEO in a masterfully crafted deep fake video that paints the bank as some imminent failure or scandal?
Yeah. Or even a photo of like a bunch of dark vans outside of a bank headquarter.
Right.
You could do that pretty quickly, like any of that kind of stuff. Sure. Yeah.
So you attribute the volatility to just the speed in which money can move now at this point, just
Yeah.
online movement.
Yeah. And I don't think that's something regulators have quite wrapped their head around. So market is open. So FRC, First Republic Bank, is down 28% this morning. The
Wow, can you
stock is
show us?
down that much. So um,
Do you have a
banks
live?
shouldn't be moving that much. You shouldn't get that kind of move from a bank, but that's where we are today.
Are
Yeah,
you
down
are you
to
pulling something up?
1150. What else is
Were you
going
gonna
on in
screen?
your world?
Were you gonna screen share that? Oh, I thought you were gonna screen. I thought you were pulling up a screen
Oh,
share.
yeah, I can pull that up here. Yeah, there's Yahoo Finance down to 1142. So previous close was well,
So what's the news
about
surrounding First Republic and causing the
yeah,
downturn?
just stock plummets after revealing deposit exodus in March. So they say, everything's delayed, but they say that they've stabilized their deposit base, but more money left the bank um, than analysts expected, type of thing.
Wow. So is this another bank crashing in real time right before our eyes, you think?
I don't think so. Um, but it's possible. I mean, the headline risk of this, like I said earlier, like what's the point of hanging around at First Republic unless you've got some sort of deep allegiance there. If I had an account there, I'd probably close it. Like you don't get points for loyalty or sticking something out.
Yeah. Any activity surrounding Walmart or Target as a result of Bed Bath and Beyond? Are they eating their lunch this
I don't
morning?
I don't think so. Market's pretty flat so far. Walmart's up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Target is probably about the same. Well, Target's down a little bit.
Is there a movers? Do you have like a movers, or you have there's watch lists and stuff, but there's no movers filter, right?
Yeah, I usually use CNBC, but they're down this morning. I keep getting 413 request entity too large errors on CNBC.
Nice.
So
So
yeah,
where are you with the TD transition to who are they moving to? Schwab.
yeah. So that's mostly going to happen over the summer toward the end of March. I think they're going to work on it like um, Memorial Day weekend. They're so Schwab acquired TD a couple years ago. Schwab was the it's actually kind of interesting the way they did this. So what happened was, if you think about trading costs, remember that was kind of a thing a few years ago. It was like somebody come out with 7.99 trades, and then it was 6.99, and it was just this race to the bottom.
Right.
And Schwab realized that TD was getting a larger portion of their revenue from trading costs than Schwab was, and Schwab was getting a larger portion of their revenue from their deposit base and their banking. So Schwab kind of sat down and said, well, if we move our trading costs to zero, TD will have to move theirs to zero, and that will make them a lot less profitable, and then we'll be able to take them out. And that's basically what happened. So TD went to zero as soon as Schwab did. I think it was like literally the same week for trading costs, and that just kind of sucked the air out of the TD Ameritrade balloon, and then so Schwab acquired them. So a lot of the advisors that I know custody with one, two, or both of them. So from a custody standpoint, what that means is Joe Smith wants to open an account. You're giving him a Schwab application, and you are the advisor on the account. So when they get the statement on the top left, it says Charles Schwab with their with their logo, and then on the top right is the advisory firm with their name and logo. So it's kind of a partnership there. So there's been some trepidation from advisors who are only on the TD platform, with the idea that if they go to Schwab, they might kind of get lost in the shuffle because, if they're a smaller kind of independent firm. Schwab has a reputation of working with larger firms, but that doesn't mean they necessarily can't work with the smaller firms. So I think they'll be okay. There's no reason for Schwab to stop working with particular advisors just because they're small, because a lot of the small advisors there's not a lot of labor with Schwab. It's more a function of the experience of the advisor. So if you're calling the Schwab helpline as an advisor all the time because you don't know what you're doing, you're not a profitable partner for Schwab. But if you're, a solo advisor who knows the system, you're very rarely going to use Schwab. So, you're just kind of a silent partner on their platform. There's some tricky things that just technology wise that they're going to have to iron out. So certain money movement type of thing. So if you were scheduled for like the 1st or the 15th, forget exactly, but some of TDs were like, you could check a box to say, at the end of the month, do this money movement, where Schwab was either like you had to do a date. So they'll have to reconcile that kind of stuff. But I don't think that's going to be a big deal. Some stuff will have to be repapered, as they say. So new forms and to do certain things, but shouldn't be an issue.
So how about the world of AI? We're now several months into AI. I haven't lost my job. You look gainfully employed still. So AI has not yet destroyed the world. What's any developments in your space in that regard?
No, I'm seeing a little bit of both, a little bit of fear and opportunity. So you'll see things on LinkedIn that was like, you'll get the people who are marketing to advisors that are like, hey, he's not going to replace you. I think it's just going to make good advisors better and bad advisors, their demise might be accelerated. I think instances like ChatGPT and those type of things, they're actually pretty explicit about when you ask them a financial type of question. They'll say, we're not your advisor, consult your advisor. Like for whatever reason, that was something very specific that they programmed in. So for now, advisors like, oh, that's great, because it's almost like a marketing piece. Somebody goes on there and types something in, and then it says consult your advisor. Well, that's a pretty good idea. But I don't think advisors are super fearful of it yet.
Are you seeing any of your vendors or in your space tapping GPT?
Not yet. It was, I think we talked about this on an episode before. It's just become kind of a buzzword. And so what they're doing is kind of rebranding old systems, like cloud was big for a while, which really doesn't really mean that much. It's just something offsite. So I think now they're using, they'll have this computation method or this sort of back end that did certain things. And now they just call it AI, or upload your financial statements and we'll use our AI to scrub the documents or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's a PDF converter, get over yourself.
Right.
So you get some of that kind of stuff, but I haven't seen any of the software providers really lean into it yet. How about you?
So from where I'm sitting, I have a lot to say on this, and I'll try not to occupy the mic too long. But so AI has definitely been the buzzword for the last few years, and in the last 4 months, that has really ratcheted up. And I think more technologically kind of in tune individuals like yourself and me, kind of like we heard the AI buzzword years ago come online, and it was a kind of an eye roll. It was kind of like, okay, it was nothing burger for now. And then I think what's happening now is with GPT and the large language models, it's actually kind of here, but it's not yet adapted. And what I'm seeing is Microsoft is running with their hair on fire. Like they are betting the farm on this, and I think it's right for them to do so, because I think this is going to be a business productivity tool first. Although I'm waiting for the headline still. Mark my words. I'm waiting for the headline that Amazon taps large language models, or GPT specifically, to bring to the Amazon Echo smart speaker, smart home assistant, because that's where the two massive bodies of people are operating kind of daily. So if you're a business owner or a professional worker, you more than likely are participating in Microsoft's 365 ecosystem. And if you store your files in there on OneDrive and SharePoint, Microsoft is bringing GPT to that ecosystem of tools. And right now, I'm looking at like this product they just they announced recently called Microsoft Purview, and it looks very technical, it looks very expensive, and it looks very IT-ish for the back end, right? But I think it's just a matter of time where they just continue to find a path to consumerization and to consumerize that, ease the deployment challenges. So IT continues to adopt it more, bring it to the consumer side of their Outlook.com and their OneDrive.com, the consumer side of the Microsoft products. And then what you're doing is you're using that Jarvis effect with your own data. You literally you could say, and this is just an example, or where you could say, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I haven't deleted email, I think, in 20 years, right? So you could come up with your GPT prompt in Outlook.com or your business side and say, did I email so and so at some point about such and such? And then it returns in a plain speak response with cited sources. And I think that's where the utility is going to come from this. Mm-hmm. And Microsoft whenever we consult a client, we really do view the Microsoft 365 ecosystem as kind of the de facto business tool. And then you start because that brings your email, that brings your data storage and things like that. And then you start talking about your business specific software and your billing and your accounting and your invoicing and your finance stuff, and then your sales stuff. So your sales stuff is on this side, your billing and invoicing is on this side. The Microsoft 365 is kind of the glue that holds it together, So Microsoft is really kind of on that spear point. And I just think that, they're, like I said, they're not walking, they're running to this and made major investments. You're starting to see this product, this feature called Copilot coming out to the Microsoft Office suite, which is ChatGPT and large language model in Microsoft Office. A lot of the internet YouTubers out there are making jokes like there's like a major call to bring back Clippy,
Yes, absolutely.
If you remember Clippy.
Do it.
So, yeah, I mean, once it becomes very pedestrian in Microsoft 365, I think we're going to see it come out to Windows. They'll probably adapt an Android application. So once that happens, then it's going to be that kind of secondary and tertiary software space, like your business management software, your CRM, and your billing and accounting software.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do you feel like some of your software providers or even some of your end clients are, it's like kind of a hurry up and wait sort of thing where there's almost like there's this first wave of, like the ChatGPT that everybody was like obsessed with. And then there's kind of the new wave of, they opened up the API and now there's like a million different, different apps and stuff that you can use that are tapping into that. They're business specific, or they're even, like more agent, like where they'll go through and they'll pre-fill all the questions for you and they'll go through the cycle. but it's almost like you want to say, all right, do I go full steam into this now and learn some of these things, or are they going to be obsolete in 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days type of thing?
Well,
You getting any
that's
of
kind of
that?
why I see what like there are smaller software vendors that are exploring how they can use, because our audience, I don't know how technical our audience is, but it's all about the API. ChatGPT has this technology, and then they're letting third parties like Microsoft and more tap it using their API to plug into it. It's like the engine that they can use to spin their own data, Um, and I think, and this always kind of happens with new technologies, like multi-factor authentication kind of went this way, where you have a big player, a market leader, a technology leader like Microsoft that brings it to market, starts, claiming its benefits and bringing it out. But there's no real uniform. There's no business model yet formed around the technology. So early adopters on the software side, their first version of the adaptation may not be what it looks like today. So the smaller the software company, the more limited resources they have to experiment and be kind of innovative. And I see that a lot with the software vendors that we see on our clients' computers and the tools that we even use as a technology provider. And so by Microsoft kind of spearheading it, I think what they're going to do is they're just going to lower the bar the technology learning curve. They're also going to show how the AI can be leveraged in a given domain or data set or kind of use case. And so I think, yeah, to answer your question, is a lot of hurry up and wait, where I think there's probably 60-year-old software programmers out there that are like, whew, glad I don't have to learn that, right?
Yeah,
And then
right.
there's the generation before them that go like, oh, I probably need to learn this. And there's going to be like, they're going to be split with like, let me see if I can get through the rest of my career without understanding this. And then there's going to be the ones that are excited about how to leverage the new technology.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes that first to market sort of thing, it's like, all right, let me wait for the next version. OpenAI is great, but let's see what Amazon does. Let's see what Google does. Are these going to be the MySpace or the Yahoos or something like that, where it's version 1.0, and then let's see what happens after that.
And that's where we're at. And if you if you watch Microsoft, they have a few. I think on YouTube they have a YouTube channel called Microsoft Mechanics,
Okay.
and they talk about some of these technologies that they're playing with. I mean, they're building products right now that are
Mhm.
coming to market that are going to be in the end user's hands. I don't use the desktop versions of Microsoft Office anymore, and that's where they right now are with this Copilot product, they call it, or the Copilot tool, the
Mhm.
Clippy 2.0. I'm sure they're going to send it to the web versions of their suite, so I'm looking forward to that. I guess I have the desktop versions of Office, but I'm so anti right now. I'm just so stuck in the web. Um, but yeah, so Microsoft will be first out of the gate. They're showing it's amazing how Google is playing catch up. Um, Google really is behind on the AI front, so it's interesting to see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah. So yeah, there were a lot of Google employees, unnamed and former Google employees, who didn't want them to release what they've already released, and too many errors and stuff like that. Let me throw out a conspiracy theory that I heard, which is somewhat interesting, that Google saw what Microsoft was doing with OpenAI and whatever, so they decided, even though they know theirs wasn't ready, to throw it out there and muddy the waters with the idea that people would be like, "Oh yeah, this stuff's not ready," and sort of kill the whole space for a while they play catch up. What do you think about that?
Um, it's one of those things where uh, something happens organically, and you can make a case you can make it two different cases as to why it happened, and both are actually true.
Right.
Google needed to release something.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they were going to definitely look like they were a laggard. But at the same time, by releasing something that was lagging, they could do exactly what you described, which is muddy the waters and devalue the space for the time being, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of both, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely could be both. I mean, the stuff is moving so fast. Could they have waited a month or 2 months maybe and come out with something a little bit better or done something sort of in between? I don't know. I haven't used Bard, the Google version. Have you?
I used it when it came out to see how it compared to the Bing and the ChatGPT, and yeah, it was half baked comparatively.
Yeah.
So I also think what's going to happen is Microsoft will continue to roll out AI centric features, and I think they're going to have a lot of success there. I think Google is going to continue to lag behind because they have, they're a San Francisco based organization, and there's a lot of cultural challenges in that company and in that space. There's a lot of, like one of the Googlers was fired because he was claiming that it was already self-aware,
Hmm.
and that he was kind of hitting he was pulling he was hitting the panic button internally. And I think Google has this, I think they may be entering this space where they have like a culture problem internally that prevents them from continuing to innovate in a way.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yep, I could see that. And with Microsoft, it wasn't built internally. It was OpenAI, which was separate, even though Microsoft was a big investor of it. And with Google, it was built internally. So companies that big, even though you think of Google as being a newer company and tech focused, it's still a big, old, bloated company that takes a long time and a lot of committees and a lot of approvals and all that kind of stuff. So
But
it's not.
Microsoft also is kind of the anti-Google too, They in their own way, like they're in Redmond, Washington as their headquarters, not San Francisco. So
Mhm.
yes, it's still liberal up there. It's still like, but it's like there's they have that they're kind of the blue button down rather than the Birkenstocks, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of company. They're the business company rather than um the video game company or whatever. So I don't know. I think there's just a little bit of a culture thing problem that Google has there. Plus, they have that monopolistic problem. They're the AOL, the Netflix. They're that brand in their space where their search product is their bread and butter, and yet their space is being disrupted with the new technology. So how do you continue to sell dial-up internet while broadband is kind of coming up around you? So it'll be, it'll, and they're not, as much as they try to be a work, they're a work productivity monster with like a lot of startups and kind of Silicon Valley type companies, but they're, and schools, they were good. They were successful in penetrating schools.
Mhm.
Um, and that may be why it's a challenge for them to leverage the AI, because if the AI starts, spouting off more racist comments and things like that, then that lands into the Google Classroom product, that might be
Yeah,
um,
that could be a problem.
brand diminishing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the brand, it comes down to, Google became a noun and a verb. I mean, so, and Microsoft notoriously has been not great at that. There were early Microsoft smartphones. I was all over. I thought they were very good.
I thought they were good
Um,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they had a lot of good, even the form factors where they had, remember the slider? Like that was a great phone. It was
Yeah.
like
The
Windows
Zune was
based.
a good product. It just
It was.
couldn't
Yeah.
compete. Yeah.
So does this become, another Zoom or something? Nobody's using, oh, go chat GPT it, or, it's not become a
Right.
verb yet. I mean, Bard isn't there either. That's a terrible name, but
Horrible.
um,
I don't know. Maybe that's what was intentional, and they must be having a rebrand coming out with that.
Yeah, you would think so. So maybe that's part of it too, is just what works and what people can remember and what becomes a verb, all that kind of stuff. Um, I asked you kind of a wacky question over the weekend. You want to get into that or not?
Yeah, let's be controversial. We're at 50 minutes. Nobody's listening at this point.
Well, you never know. So I asked you, going back to the Wonder Woman
Oh,
stuff.
okay. A
This was
Republican, a
after that.
Democrat, and an AI. Who do you
Yeah.
vote for? Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah. So I asked you if you'd elect an AI representative to the House or Senate, given the choice of Republican, Democrat, or AI, who would get your vote? Um, and could it be a component that, could it almost be like another branch of the government or something that's so easily that you could propose ideas or how to fix stuff? And you think about all the work that's done now by lobbyists and clerks and that sort of stuff. If you made that part of the AI model, started with how do we fix Social Security or something like that, and see what it came up with. um, could it get to that point where we've talked about other businesses being disrupted? I think last show we talked about criminal justice and in that world, but government could almost be disrupted, right?
Yes and no. Um, there's so much meat on this bone, and I hate.
I
If
know.
we're okay with blasting past an hour, right?
Yeah,
I have extra time.
sure.
Um, there's a couple things. So politically, people cannot come to a consensus. They can come to agreements, but but I almost think in this point, and I'm always remiss to ever use the word like use finality, right? Like
Mhm.
ever impossible, whatever, right? But I'm almost at the point where like it's impossible for a mass or really two or more people or one or more people, right, to come to a pure consensus.
Mhm.
So we're always kind of coming to shared agreements where we're all feeling like we're we're all losing something in the deal, but have we kept enough of our identity in the deal? You know what I mean? And software just is math. It's 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that's your output. If you put in 2 and you put in 2, you're going to get 4. You can't say, well, I identify that answer as 5, right? Or I identify that answer as 2. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and that's kind of, and I'm using the word identify as to try to invoke what's going on with all of this, all of the things that are distracting Congress these days. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, so you could have an AI feed, consume the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights and say like uphold that, right? But I don't think the humans will ever acquiesce to that because both parties will be like, well, it's not my interpretation of the Constitution, or it's not my
Mhm.
interpretation of the Constitution. And that's the problem. Like people can interpret themselves as men or women or free, or that's free or not free. Like watching the Republicans, say that they support freedom, but yet like always rally against some clearly not free ideal. And I don't have any examples off the top of my head.
Mhm.
And then the Democrats doing the same exact thing. Um, so like the humans will never say like no software programmer could come to the table and to Congress and say like we figured it out. Like let's use this to do our judgments and adjudicating because it's unbiased, or like we all know what the input parameters are. The fight will be at the input parameters.
Mhm.
You
Right.
did I make any sense on that?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Whatever, garbage in, garbage out. But if you took the
Exactly.
Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and if you, uploaded every court case, every judicial opinion, um, if that's your input, obviously you don't want an automated system to be the final vote on something. But what if ahead of time, just spitballing here, you said, all right, we're going to take, we're going to ask, we've decided to ask these questions of our AI system, and we've agreed that we're going to use that as a basis of a compromise. That could be, it's hard not to think of it in today's terms with today's, it's an old group of politicians. So this is pretty, an idea like that is completely foreign, but to your kids, it's not going to be. They
Right.
grow up on that. They're going to have, whatever the system is, they're going to use that as a permanent partner in whatever they're doing. So
Right.
it's not too far fetched to think that that will play a significant role.
Right. There's talk that those who excel at leveraging AI will be excellent input or prompt writers.
Mhm.
Did we talk about that last week?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
So then like you've heard the term like, oh, he or she's got a silver tongue or the gift of gab, right?
Mhm.
And so the talent that may come up with wielding AI is the ability to masterfully craft a prompt that gets the AI to output the thing that you want to support you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
true.
the United States, it's so crazy. Like growing up as a kid in the 80s and 90s, you're like, wait a minute, the Constitution says that all men are created equal, and why were there slaves?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, how did you define blacks as not man? And yet everybody with a straight face lived through, at that time, held slaves. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's and that's the, I don't know, I'm not a philosopher, so I haven't like codified how I feel about this well, and I always fail to articulate myself, but it's like living in this country has been such a face palm, because it's like talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're like, freedom loving, but then the policies are not in support of the freedom. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then with AI, you can you get AI to like read the Constitution, say all men are created equal, and then somehow get AI to say like, except for that guy.
Right, right. Well, we talked about that last show. If you're building it based on previous information that's out there, and the only previous information has some sort of bias in it, what do you do to stop that cycle? Right? What do you do to remove that sort of bias? Then now you're getting into the tweaking, and now, well, if this, then that, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of
Right,
why you put this together in the first place.
right. And then there's this natural tendency of humans to want to group and classify humans, so
Hmm.
that there's this feeling of inclusivity and exclusivity, like it's us versus them. So if an AI, if you say to an AI, draft me a bill that um, equitably dispenses um, gas tax for, where should we build the roads, and use the gas tax? You know what I mean?
Right.
It presumably will do some logical thinking and say, well, based on the limited resource and the condition of the roads and the traffic volume, here's where the roads should probably be built. But then you have some politicians say like, well, that's not in my district, and then
Hmm.
and then the politician says, well, look how biased and then you just find the data subset of where the chat GPT or the AI wasn't inclusive or something, and then you just make an emotional case for why the AI is a heartless bastard and shouldn't be trusted.
Right. Right.
Bless you.
Gonna sneeze here.
Gesundheit. There it is.
Yeah, finally got it out. Yeah, I mean, you could think of that's a good example. What if there were some historical buildings along that path that was calculated to build this road through a certain area? Um, where how would you compute that, the historical value of a building to a town, or
Yeah, the
that
inputs
type
are
of
almost
artifact.
limitless, right?
You what?
The inputs are limitless, which means the
Yeah.
output is limitless, and it's
Yeah, the inputs are limitless until it's gobbled up everything, till it's
right.
gobbled up the whole internet, right?
Yeah, the only hope that I feel like if I go extremist here, the only hope of leveraging and benefiting from AI is if AI goes becomes self-aware and says, "Yeah, we're going to coexist, but we're just going to take over and we'll be your zookeepers." You know,
Mhm.
we're all going to be fed, we're all going to be entertained, we're all going to have a tire swing hanging in our paddock, and we're going to have meals served to us 3 times a day, and we're going to have premium healthcare, but AI just becomes the zookeeper.
Right, right. The lions that are born in the zoo don't know any other difference,
Yeah.
right? They don't
I
know
mean,
that.
and look, the zoo could be a reservation, and it could feel not like a zoo. You know what I mean? But when it comes to matters of arbitration, the AI goes like, no, no, no. This is the best for the species. You know?
Mhm.
Did I go too far? I just jumped the shark on that, I think.
Yeah, that was quite a leap, but, yeah, I could see where you're going with that.
I mean, if the humans have their hands on the wheel, it's always gonna be that swervy line, you know?
Mhm. It's always gonna have some sort of bias based on the person that created it, and unless you can consume everything that's out there, I guess. Again, even
If you have the right and power to say, "No, not me," you know, "Not us," you know,
Mhm.
you're always gonna have an opportunity to influence the hearts and minds of others, right?
Sure.
And in a way, that's like what being human is and what you know being free is. So I mean, how can you simultaneously have freedom but then control somebody from being ridiculous?
Yeah, I don't know. You got more to you wanna dig into this?
No, I mean, I don't know. You look like you're tapping out. So
No, no, it's just you go down these paths that don't have any answers, and, um, I think the political one is interesting. If you could elect somebody to just vote yay or nay on bills, um, that would be interesting. A machine to just take your seat and vote on something for your district. Would you do it?
maybe putting our feet back on the ground. You know, AI will say, you know, you're in the left or you're the right, or you have some agenda that you want to push through. Right? You
Mhm,
say to your AI, I feel really strongly about having after school paid or funded government funded after school care for
mhm,
children, you know, 16 and under, right? Where I'm in an Atlanta suburb, and you know the AI knows what the tax roll is, knows what the demographics are, knows maybe with some crime values. You give it some inputs, right? Say check the
mhm,
crime, check the tax roll, um, you know, check the percentage of parents who work full time or whatever, right? And draft me a bill that promotes a after school funded programs, and AI will just boom now spit out your 200-page bill in
mhm,
bill speak, you know, that pushes that. Well, and then now you've got this 200-page bill that you want to pass around to your colleagues, and they all receive a copy of it, and they take their AI and say, "Hey, summarize this for me. Give me the gist." And
right.
AI says, okay, well, you know, we want after school programs here because here's the data that suggests that if kids are in stimulating activities after school and with single parents, the crime rate goes down. And here's 5 examples of communities around the country that have already done it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So maybe that's probably where AI will be leveraged in governing government.
Yeah, and then you get into a situation where you could have potentially some fights or disagreements on how to get to the output. So let's say you put that output in, you say, "What's the best after school activity in my town for a 13-year-old girl?" And say, "Okay, here are the top 3." And then the next nobody wants to do number 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
or, or the counterpoint, and or the person in the contra says, take this bill and give me 10 examples of where this may communities where this may have been detrimental.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
so,
That true.
so now you've got the legislators saying like, This is what we wrote. Here's the data that supports it. And he goes, this is what you wrote, and here's the data that does not support it.
Mm-hmm.
And AI just keeps giving you this, this
Yeah, a little
feedback.
ping pong back and forth.
How about the judiciary, where the judge will say, here's how I interpret the facts of this case, right? Here's my
Mhm.
input to you. Can you, maybe even to the point where here's how I think I'm going to interpret or rule on this based on my understanding and input, right? Can you, and you in real speak, that's what's wonderful about these language models. You can say in real speak, can you give me any reason or precedent that this may run contrary to or which should be in a conflict of, and then
Mhm.
maybe AI spits out 10 case law examples over the last 100 years where those parameters may be in contradiction to each other.
Mhm. If you were in court facing a jury of your peers for a crime you had allegedly committed, would you be comfortable having one of those members of the jury be artificial intelligence? 11-person jury and one of them's a bot.
Yeah, definitely.
You would be?
Definitely. Because I
Okay.
feel like and this is what kind of boils back to your original question about like, who
Yeah.
would you vote for, Democrat, Republican, or AI? I trust math.
Mhm.
And I know that if you watch Veritasium on YouTube or a couple of those real brainies on YouTube, they show like they kind of blow up your spot on your thinking of how perfect math might be and how imperfect it really is. But whatever, like I generally trust a spreadsheet of cells filled with data, unless
Mhm.
they show a bunch of e's in them. What's the error? When a cell has like bad
Yeah,
form
numb
data,
or
it's like
numb with the exclamation point.
yeah, numb with yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so generally, like I trust m- more than human fallacy.
Mhm.
Like no software is perfect and no technology is perfect, but I also trust that like there's there's more control in kind of the output. So yeah, I mean, if there was one AI on my jury, I would definitely want that.
You know where I'd like to see it come into play is on sentencing. I remember being a kid learning that like two people could commit the exact same crime the exact same way and end up with different sentences. Like I remember that like blowing my mind. Like, wow, that doesn't seem fair if they both
But it's
happen.
never real. So that's the problem, right? It's never really the exact same
Right.
thing. It's a different community. They're
Mhm.
different inputs.
Yeah.
Right? The
Yeah.
output's different because the inputs are different, but the inputs are all human born. It's like um, the malicious intent was this versus the other one didn't have malicious intent, or they put some measure some amount of,
Hmm.
So
I
yeah, I
think
mean, I
I
agree.
down to. I mean, two people have been pulled over in the same spot for speeding at the same miles per hour, and one of them gets off and the other one doesn't. I mean, that's probably fairly common occurrence, right?
So so if you're following the news, there's New York, Connecticut are putting in auto ticketing speed
Mhm.
cameras for. I think they're doing construction zones right now.
Yes.
So that's to me. How is that even controversial? That should not be controversial. If
Right.
you're speeding, you should get a ticket. And I've been, when I was a kid, like I would totally punch myself in the face if I met my 20-year-old version of myself, um, because I wanted to continue to benefit from driving recklessly and speeding and, fighting the man if I got caught. But now I've got kids and the highways are horribly unsafe with 20-year-old versions of me being completely irresponsible unnecessarily. So I've been, my position now is like, if speeding is illegal, why is it
Right.
possible? The cars certainly can be manufactured to prevent speeding. Every speed limit sign could have a speed camera on it that tickets everybody who goes past faster than the speed limit.
Yeah.
Um, I was reading something where even the state itself factors in the s- speed, the purported speed of the drivers as almost like an allowable threshold. Like people will drive as fast as they think is safe. So there's a calculus that they take in that, like, if we put a speed limit sign, they try to put the speed limit sign value to closest represent what people will actually do rather than what they want them to do.
Right. If they really want people to go 50, they'll put a sign up that says 35 because they know everybody will go 50.
Exactly. And that part of governance, I really just have grown to hate, because it's really not, it's not, there's no principle to it, or the principle seems to be inappropriate. It's the principle seems to be unprincipled.
Right. I'm going to throw another one out that's just sort of related, but unrelated. What would you think of speeding tickets? A good example, having that tied to your income as a percentage of your income, or so speeding ticket, you go 20 miles over the speed limit on the highway, it's 0.5% of your income that year.
No,
So
that's definitely not
you don't
my
like that.
view at all. No, because I don't even like sliding scale taxes. I 10% of a dollar it should be the same for 10% of everybody's dollar.
So
That's
So the counter argument to that is you're basically letting wealthy people pay the token, you know. So there was a just pay the, I'm going to park wherever I want because so what? I'm only going to get a ticket that I'll
But
be
you
able
can
to.
really address that though with like 3 strikes and you're out rules. I mean, that can, so you can say, the New York ticket that I read, it's like $25 for the first ticket, it's $50 for the next one, and then like $100 for the third and every one thereafter. There was no word of saying like points on your license, suspension, arrest, misdemeanor arrests, or whatever. It's just, so when it's written that way, yeah, the rich can pay $100 just to go faster, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget,
Right.
they're also going to pay millions if they take out a construction worker in the speed zone, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So they act recklessly and the fine doesn't prevent them from acting recklessly. They still have they still carry the responsibility of their actions.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you still want to like actually make everybody drive slower because we want to protect the construction worker, you just make the fine appropriate, which is I think it's fine 2,500 whatever. That's all economical, but after a 3 in a 5-year period, or 3 in a 2-year period, or some reasonable period of time, you go, okay, now you're not allowed to drive.
Mhm.
You've shown us that you're not participating in the community safely. Because if that's what people forget, and that's what the freedom fighters definitely forget, that like you don't exist in a vacuum, right? We all exist in a community, and a community can get together and say, this is how it's like, I used to love the Wyatt Earp movies. It's like,
Yeah.
remember the town of Tombstone, and Wyatt Earp famously said like, he would let the bad guys into the town, but they had to relinquish their firearms while they came into town. And that was like big controversy, like, how dare you, like, maybe that was a analogy for big government taking away freedoms. But at the same time, like, you can always go to the next community that doesn't do that. That's why it's important to protect oh god, I don't want to go down this road, but like, that's why the federal government should really not be the law writers. It really should be the states that are the law writers, because if South Dakota wants to let you carry guns into their town, they should be able to do that. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to if you don't want to be around that environment, you could just vote with your feet. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Boy, did we just covered that, huh?
Yeah, we did cover that. Yeah, this came up on a podcast I was watching or listening to, and they were talking about Finland, who does have the speeding tickets and certain crimes that are attached to their income. And they brought up former NHL hockey player Teemu Selanne, who got a $39,000 fine for going 45 and a 30. Nokia executive who had a $103,000 speeding ticket. But
I just find that to be a moral hazard.
yeah, you don't like that, huh?
I'd rather say to the guy, like, you just can't drive after your third one
Yeah.
for a year. like don't criminalize them, don't ostracize them. Just be like, you've lost this privilege.
Yeah.
You certainly can afford a driver. If you can afford $100,000 driving fine, you can definitely afford to use Uber for the rest of the
Yeah,
year.
or hire a driver. Well, if it's a driving enthusiast, somebody who really likes to speed, he's not going to hire a driver or use Uber. But
Yeah, sliding scale fines and taxation is not, I don't find appropriate at all,
yeah,
because that's the freedom fighter in me that says, like, you know what, you should have the right to become successful, and we shouldn't build an entire framework designed to skim off, like just cut the tallest trees down. You know what I mean? Like, if you rise, fine, and then there's equity and fairness in our taxation. Everybody, I really I really liked Herman Cain's. I don't know if you remember Herman.
oh yeah,
Herman
we did
Cain.
this one. Yeah,
Yeah, 999. It was like, what was it, 9% income, 9% sales, and 9% corporate tax. You know what I mean? Just make it across, and then everybody just succeed on your, just rise and fall however you will in life. But that just seemed fair and equitable to me. And I know that's controversial, and I apologize if I just canceled myself, but that's just how I feel about that.
All right. Well, I think
Yeah,
that's the show. 75
that's a
minutes.
good show. Yeah, take us out.
I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting. We are a Connecticut-based investment advisory firm working with small businesses and families to help them with their financial goals.
I'm Eric Bjorndorf, CEO of Evernet Consulting. We're a national IT and business process services company. You can find us at evernetco.com. Schedule a discovery call with me if you want to talk about anything you need. And we also launched a digital marketing agency within that brand. So we do now digital marketing. If you need a website and anything associated with digital branding, digital marketing, we can do that for you too. Our socials are at EvernetCO. And Brian and I record every Tuesday, and we talk about anything we want. And if you haven't already, give us a subscribe. And if you want to get involved in the conversation, feel free to leave a comment or chat with us there.
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next week.